Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to day 29 of my 31 days of Halloween themed drawing tutorials. Today's video, I'm gonna show you how you can draw this evil, creepy clown from start to finish. It's all in real time, no time lapse, no cuts, no edits. So if you wanna follow along and draw step by step with me, keep watching. All right guys, so let's go ahead and draw an evil clown. Starting out, I'm using a 4000 by 4000 300 DPI canvas. For my brush, I'm gonna start out sketching, so I'm gonna use my HB pencil, which is part of my pencil pack available now. And then also the color palette. I've got this pre-made, once again, just like the rest of the videos in the series. You can download the same color palette for free from my website if you just go to bjdell.com. Underneath the YouTube reference materials page, which I'll link this in the description below, you can save that as a JPEG to your camera roll, going up to your wrench icon, insert a photo, brings it into Procreate as a separate layer, and then you just long press each of the colors. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's get started. And I'm gonna start out with my black here, and we'll just go ahead and begin with an oval. This will be the top of the head here. We'll kind of then start to pull this down into the chin and the jawline. It's just going to be a straight on perspective, so just right across here, just straight on, no 3/4 or side. Get some circles in here. Move this over a little bit just for the ears. Put those in there. And we'll have the nose here real big in the center. Have the eyes kind of here. And you're gonna see I'm using basic circles there, or ovals, to do the eyes, but I want him to look evil, so he's gonna have these kind of angled lines here for the eyes. So I'm using the circles to kind of determine where those go, but I'm not drawing them as the circles. So this is when I talk about just kind of using basic shapes to block out your designs. That's one of the ways that you can do that, and it's gonna help kind of visualize where everything goes. Go ahead and pull some lines here for kind of the grease paint there around the eyes. And then we'll go ahead and kind of have some more grease paint here coming around for the mouth down here towards the bottom of the chin. I think I'll have this chin come down even further. I'm going to move this up a little bit now. Chin come down here. Maybe he's got a few chins there. So that'll be the grease paint, and then we'll have the actual mouth in here. Coming back up and around, and some teeth there. So let's pull these in here first from the middle. Get those, and bring the mouth out bigger here. Tongue in there. Looks pretty cool. And then got to get the hair in here, so we'll just have the hair kind of come back in like this. And then maybe a couple just stray hairs up there at the top. I think it looks pretty good. So there's our basic sketch. We're done with that. So now we can go ahead and start adding inks. So to do the inks, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to my layers. I'm going to make a new layer. And with this layer, I'm going to hit the N for the blend mode, and I'm going to drop down the opacity. So I want to be able to see it, but not all the way. So this just helps us draw on top without being distracted. With that down now, I want to go ahead and switch my brush. I'm going to come up here to my cartooning set, and I'm going to use my standard inker Streamline to do the inking. And before I do that, I want to decide where is the light source coming from. So this is going to help me kind of determine where the thicker areas of lines are, where the heavier line weights are. That's going to be the shadowed areas. Anything closer to the light source is going to have thinner lines. So I think on this, we'll have the light source kind of coming in from this direction. So everything back here, heavier, lighter lines up here. So now that we've got that decided, we can go ahead and kind of start. I'm going to begin down here, and I just need to kind of play around with my brush to see if I want it bigger or smaller. And I think that's actually pretty good there. So the thicker line back here is going to be thicker here coming around as well. Towards a little bit lighter here towards the center because it's going to overlap there. Have this line coming up here in the back, thicker at the bottom, kind of lighter towards the front as it goes up there. So that looks good. I'm going to taper this one just a tad bit more back here. Have it thin out just a little bit more here towards the back. If I can get the right brush size here. There we go. So there's that. I'm going to pull this one down just a little bit too. Now I'm going to go ahead and let's pull, let's pull the kind of brow around here as this comes out and around towards the front of the face again here. A little bit heavier, thicker line there in the back. Taper down here towards the front. Thin that out there. And then same thing here. We can pull this one up and out and around. It's going to be a little bit lighter than that back one. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull the head around, thicker back here and lighter towards the front as it comes back around. For this, I want to go ahead and overlap these lines that I've already done. So I'm going to make a new layer here. So that's going to allow me to start down here and then pull around. And you'll see as I'm coming, I'm overlapping over here, but it doesn't matter because I've got this on a separate layer. So this allows me to get just a little bit more fluid of a line, not having to worry about starting and stopping, because since I'm on another layer, I can come up here and erase those and they're completely gone. I don't have to worry about, okay, I got to stop before I get there because this is going to mess things up. And then once I'm done there, I can just merge down and now they're all on the same layer again. So that makes it nice and you don't have to worry about screwing up your lines that you've already done. I'll thicken this up just a tad bit here. So there we go. Let's get the ears in here, pretty thick here in the back. That around and get the one here in the front, thicker there towards the bottom. And the thing here is, since doing a front-facing character, just got to make sure the left ear and the right ear are pretty much the same size there. It looks good. Go ahead and get the hair in here. So I'm going to just do some overlaps like this, bringing it back and around. Like that. We'll do the same thing over here, but once again, this is going to be a little bit lighter over here. Lines aren't going to be nearly as thick because of the way our light source is coming in. They're going to thicken up here towards the bottom, but not as much there at the top. And then we can have some other lines coming out here from the center to kind of give some volume and detail there to the hair as it comes out. Connect some of these around as they come. They're kind of coming out all from the same spot right there. All right, so we got that. Let's go ahead and get the nose in here. So once again, heavier here in the back, lighter towards the front. Hold that down to lock it in. I'm going to go ahead and lasso this now using my selection tool and freehand just to move that a little bit closer to where I originally intended it. There we go. Let's go ahead and get the eyes in here. So once again, heavier line here and here, kind of tapering towards the front there. The pupils in. Lighter line for the iris around there. And then going back in here with my eraser, just erasing some of that for the highlights there. Some tapered lines around here too for the brows kind of come in there. That's kind of come up in that same direction, like it's gonna meet it, but it's not, so it kind of needs to have that same flow to that line. There we go. Let's go ahead and get, let's see, let's do the paint around the tops here. We'll do that next. These are going to be thinner lines here coming around since they're interior and they're just that paint color. We don't want those super thick. We can bring those back down and underneath the eyes here. Let's go ahead and get the paint then around the mouth. It's again a lighter line for this, not too crazy. Get the actual mouth in here. Coming up into the corner there, and then we can get the teeth here. So again, here, heavier in the back, lighter towards the front. A little lighter there. And I think I want these to come down the opposite direction. I think it looks a little bit better doing it that way. All right, there we go. So we got the inside of the mouth, or the teeth, so let's do the inside of the mouth now. Let's bring this down and around. Stop there, and then taper some lines here for the tongue. There we go. Let's go ahead and maybe do another line here for lip and chin part. And coming around down there. And then I think we are pretty good. I'm going to thicken this up just a tad bit towards the center of the nose. So now we've got the inks done. So now we can go ahead and move on to the colors. So to do the colors, I'm going to come up here to my layers menu. I'm going to turn off my sketch layer. And I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer and drag this underneath my inks layer. Now I'm going to set my inks layer to reference, which is going to allow us to drag and drop the colors in on layer 3. So I'm going to go up here. First color is this off-white kind of cream color. That's going to be for the face and ears. I don't want to go super white with the color just because I want it to have almost that dirty feel to it. Do this greenish blue for the hair and for the makeup there. And same thing for the makeup around the mouth. Red for the nose. This darker color for the inside of the mouth. Pink for the tongue. And white. We're going to go ahead and go up to our layers. We're going to turn off the background so we can see where's the white need to go. So we've got white now. We can go ahead and drag and drop these in. Hitting there for the highlights of the pupil. And then the teeth. All right. Back up here then. Let's go ahead and turn on our background again. We've got blue. That's going to be the color here for the irises. Those, and I'm going to use a little bit of black here to get that little dot right there, like an extra dot. All right, so there we go. From here, I can add in some extra lines too if I want to do details. Now that I've got the colors in, I can see, okay, this area might need a little bit more detail. So going back to my standard inker and that lines layer here, I'll pull in some extra lines here around the eyes. Oops. Added a little extra line there that I didn't want to. So yeah, just doing some extra bags here under the eyes like this. Add in some extra details there. Can do that. Same thing here around the face paint part. So it makes this like look a little bit more ripply here. There's some maybe fat rolls coming around there. Can add in maybe a couple dots here for that hair off to the side. And then, oh yeah, I've got to add in little hairs up here. I was going to do that and forgot. Have those coming off. Just like that. So a little bit extra. And then same thing here, just like with those, you could have some frizzes coming off of the hair here if you want those coming off the side. Just little stuff like this to add in details. However you want to do it to make it your own, feel free to do that. Couple cross hatches, stuff like that. There's so much you could do going back and forth, totally up to you. How far you want to go with it and what all you want to do to make it your own. A couple dots down here too for the tongue. So there we go. So that's the color flats and then adding in some extra lines there. So let's go ahead now and start the shadows. So to do the shadows, we're going to come back up to our layers menu. Going down to our color flats here, we're going to go ahead and make a new layer. And we're going to go ahead and set this to clipping mask. So this is going to allow us to color in on this layer, and it's going to lock into whatever is on that bottom layer without going outside of the lines. So now that we've got that done, I'm going to come down here to this dark purple, and I'm going to switch over. I've already got it, just my standard inker, not the streamlined version. And I'm going to start coloring in here. Like I said, I got the light source coming in from that top right-hand corner. So everything back here, I'm just going to kind of come in and shadow in. And then we're going to drop the opacity of this eventually. So it's not going to be this purple color. It's going to have a shadowed effect to it. But I like to come in before I even drop the opacity and just get a decent sized area colored in that covers a few different colors in the design. Because once we drop the opacity of this, we want to make sure it looks good across all the different colors. So we know what percentage to put it at. It might be, you know, a certain number on one color that looks awesome, but then when you look at the next color next to it, it's too dark or too light. So we're going to have to use something that looks good between all the different colors. One way to kind of combat that, and if you don't want to do that and want to kind of manually adjust all the colors, you could actually do separate layers for the shadows as they go across different colors. Just takes a lot more time to do it like that, and for this tutorial I want to keep this kind of short, and I usually just like using that one just to, once again, save time. Some across here with the things there, and you can see I'm being sloppy here because I'm going to go in and do some erasing, so I'm not really worried about covering up too much. And once I got it in there, then I'm good to go. So what I can do here is go up to my layers menu, hit the N for blend mode, and then just drop this down till I get it to wherever I think looks good. I think in this case, maybe about 35% looks pretty good. So now I'm going to go back up to my eraser here, and I'm going to start to kind of clean up some of these lines. Like I said, I went in sloppy to begin with. I wasn't really worried about exactly what it was going to look like. And I just kind of switch now back and forth between my eraser and my brush to get it to look exactly like I want to. You'll see too, I'm going to come in, I'm going to remove some shadows because I want the viewer to tell that that is shadowed in. And if I have too much of a shadowed area, it's not going to read as shadowed. It's just going to look like one solid color. So if I go in here like this and remove some of those, it's going to look a lot better. Just hit some of these lines too, tops of these. Again, following the taper there to the front, so that looks like it should. Do the top of this ear here. Do around the top of this. I'm probably going to hit the outside, but I'll fix it here. Just the top of that greenish blue color there. Down and around the eyes here a little bit where those bags are. Following the lines there around. We'll do around the fronts of these two. Just hitting the top lines there. There. One here. Kind of tapers off. Like that. And then I think too around the top here of the mouth. That kind of taper in towards the front. Get these teeth in here a little bit better. Erase those overlaps. Like that. Teeth here, pulling in on the back side here with that taper up towards the top. And along this one too. Want that to come over that far? Probably not. So I'll erase this one. So I think that looks good. Let's get the nose here a little bit better towards that section, and then back here too. This needs cleaned up. Kind of pull around there. What else? I think I'm going to go ahead and come back in here and remove this back section as that comes up. That kind of cleans that out a little bit and makes it pop a little bit more with those shadows. So you just get too many shadows in there, too big of areas covered, and it just kind of looks muddy and it looks like there's too much going on. So just pulling away little bits here and there really starts to clean that up. Just maybe some kind of squiggly tapered lines there too. That looks pretty good. I'm going to pull in some shadows then here on the underside of these lines. I'm not going crazy with the shadows in on this side though, because that's where the light source is coming from. But since these are going to kind of have a weight to them, they're going to give off a little bit of a shadow there underneath. And then we can do the same thing here at the bottom. This just comes back up and around. Get inside this ear here. Got a little overlap there too. Let's try to hit that real quick. All right, so there's that. Let's clean up this eye here. Oops, get back on my shadow layer. Erase that part going over the whites there. There we go. A couple oval ones in there to set those off a little bit more. And then we'll pull in a shadow there across the top of this. Of those over there. All right, let's see what else down here along the bottoms of these. I need some down there. Same thing here, this one. All right, there we go. That's pretty good for the shadows then. Let's go ahead and do the highlights. So to do this, once again, coming back up to my layers, I'm going to make a new layer here. Come into my colors. I'm going to go ahead and go to this yellowish white color first. And then I'm just going to come in here and hit certain areas there that are coming in, like I said, closer to this top right-hand section where the light source is coming in from. Those up. These I'm going to be a little bit more careful with because I'm not going to do as many of these, so I'm not going to go back in and do a whole bunch of fixing on these. So if I do them better right off the start, that's going to kind of speed this up. So that's why I'm being a little bit more careful. This is going outside because I didn't set this as clipping mask yet. So going back to my layers and setting this as clipping mask, you'll see now that doesn't come outside. Come back in here then too, I can also pull out some extra lines like that to kind of tie in to the feel of that hair coming in. Hit the top of this as well with a kind of crazy jittery line there. That looks good. Hit the top of here a little bit. I'm basically tapering to those lines. I'll go back and turn on the streamline there too. Get the nose here around the front. Here. Big one here. Across the top of this one here. There's that. What else? Maybe across the top of the tongue here. think that looks pretty good. Now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna switch over to white for the rest of the highlights. So right here on the skin, this white's gonna show up a lot better. So that's why I'm switching over to white. So using 2 different colors of highlights for this one, just because of the base color of what's being highlighted. Those there, a couple more over here. And what else? A couple more here. I think that's pretty good there. One thing I'm going to do as well, coming back here to my color flats, I'm going to hold down my finger here to select this darker color, and then I'm going to color in side of this ear. So this is shadowed. Since this whole area is shadowed back here, we can't use that same color to color in because it's just showing up as one. So if I color that in separately now, that's got a separate color to it. I can also use this separate color too if I want to add extra shadows around other areas. So I can add an extra shadow here around the eye to kind of darken that in. Same thing here if I pull up around the nose back here. That's another way to add in extra shadows after you already have shadows in there, just by selecting whatever color that darker shadow makes and then going back in there and adding that color back into your color flats. You can get extra quick shadows like that instead of having to make a secondary shadows area. So you can get some cool effects like that. So I think that's pretty much it. I'm gonna go ahead here and let's just do the yellow here, down at the bottom, new layer. Just add a circle around him. Just kind of set him off a little bit. I'm gonna turn off my reference layer here so I can drag and drop the color here into my circle. Get that in there, drag it out just a little bit more here to get it at the perfect area. I think that looks good. I'm gonna go ahead and alpha lock this. Coming back up here then to my adjustments, and I'm gonna go to my halftone layer. I'm just gonna slide this to the right and give it a halftone just to kind of finish off the design. Selecting everything now, then I'm gonna pull it back up to the top just a tad bit. It's coming close there to the bottom. And there we go, there's our clown. Last thing I'm gonna do then, come into my sketch or my ink layer here. I'm gonna come in and sign this. And I will be done. All right, so there we go. There's an evil clown for day 29. Can you believe it? 29 days done. Only got 2 more days left, so hopefully you guys will join me for those as well. If you guys liked today's video too, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell for notifications so you can get alerted when I post new videos. Like I said, 2 more days. Got to tune in for those. If you guys do any of the tutorials and make artwork based on these, post them online on Instagram or Twitter. Definitely tag me at BJDell so I can check them out. Or you can post them over on Facebook. I've got a group over there called Keep Creating, a group for artists by artists, place where you can share works based on these tutorials or just anything that you're doing in general with art. Give feedback, get feedback, meet new friends. It's an awesome place to be. I want you guys to be a part of it. As for me, I can be found online, bjdell.com, as well as my podcast, Make Money with Your Art, available wherever you listen to podcasts. So that's it. Like I said, 2 more days. I'll be back tomorrow. Will you? I hope so. And until next time, keep creating.